Before we get started, I do have some special news that I wanted to share. If you haven't found out already, many people, maybe new listeners, maybe know this already, or if you follow me on Twitter or Instagram, we have officially joined the Built on Buffalo podcast network, and we're extremely excited about that. So nothing's going to be changing on our end. Just joining a new podcast network and a really exciting opportunity to really showcase, hopefully more people what we do over here at Views from the Gravel Lot, and we got a new logo. We're trying to spice things up a little bit, but I kind of wanted to get that out of the way and just kind of thank everybody that gave us this opportunity to have sort of a bigger platform almost, and give us a chance here to really share some of our thoughts and our takes. And I got to give big thanks to Dave Myers, who runs Built in Buffalo. Really appreciative of this opportunity, and obviously Hakeem and also Lance, who run the show over there. But really excited about this, and it's something that we were been looking about for a while now. Me and you had briefly exchanged text messages earlier and basically said, it's been only a year since we started this podcast, and the fact that they're giving us this opportunity, this platform, it means a lot, and it's a big opportunity for us, and hopefully for some new listeners to the show. But we're very excited about that, and without further ado, Mike, let's get into today's episode. So we had a couple different ideas planned out for today, but we're mainly going to look at the Bills' impending free agents this offseason, because there's a few guys that I wanted to really talk about and touch base on, whether we bring them back, on a 1-year deal, 2-year deal, whatever it may be, or we're going to let them walk and go play somewhere else. I wanted to start off with the show with Amari Cooper. This is somebody that is it's a really interesting case with Amari, because let me just pull up here and just get the contract details pulled up here. But it's you can make an argument for each side, right? Like the production really wasn't there. And I think a lot of fans will look at that and say, hey, there's probably something missing here. It wasn't a resounding success in terms from a production standpoint. I'm sure you would agree with that, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to kind of get your take on it, because you haven't really talked yet. What do you think about Amari? Would you like him back? And then I'll kind of let you take the floor here, and then I'll kind of jump around with that.
So I wouldn't be opposed to bringing back Amari Cooper under the right circumstances. It just depends on what role you're trying to bring him back on. If you're looking for Amari Cooper to be the guy like we all kind of anticipated when he got traded here at the deadline, you're probably going to end up walking away from next season, or however many seasons he's here going forward, disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to bring him back just as like a piece to add to this wide receiver room, then I think, there are ways to maneuver this that can make this, a successful move,
right,
and make this to where it's worthwhile contractually, financially, money-wise. Like I think if Amari Cooper wants to come back on a 1 max 2-year deal, making anywhere between 12 and like $15 million, I'd be okay with that per year.
Okay.
Per year, I would.
Yeah, I definitely think there's two sides to this, right? Like, hey, the team got significantly better since he was acquired. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. If you're going to sell yourself on Amari Cooper, they went on that big 30-point plus streak when he was acquired. Because what he did was essentially, when we all reacted to this trade, I think you and I had shared a similar thought that, hey, we don't need him to be this uber productive alpha receiver, but he needs to give everybody a role, which they weren't playing in the right role before Amari. Like, you had guys playing out of position, guys playing more snaps than they probably should have. And I think Amari kind of alleviated a lot of that pressure and put everybody in the right position. And I would say that's probably the biggest thing with Amari. Like, the statistics may not show you, hey, this is a super productive guy. He's gonna eat 1,200, 1,300 yards and give you 6 touchdowns. But he's a guy that's going to alleviate some of that pressure. And I think for an offense that expresses that mantra of everybody eats, you don't need that, right? You need somebody who can at least play the role, right? And then, like, he opened up this offense. You would see defenses would give them more too high shell looks. You would get some of those opportunities. And I think defenses respected him enough where it actually helped the run game as well. I don't know if you would agree with that, but I think it did improve the run game as well.
I mean, he's coming off statistically his worst
season,
career season. I highly doubt that he's going to finish next year with 40 catches and 500 yards. I would like to think at a minimum he's getting anywhere in the high 60s to low 70s, and an 800 to 900
That's
yard
what I was
receiver
thinking
on
too.
this team, which you'd be happy with. You'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's someone to where if the money makes sense, give it a shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing to lose.
For sure. Spot Track, here, I'll pull it up right now. They have him listed at 14.2 million.
Sounds
Take
about
that
right.
with a grain of salt because, some of these can be a little inaccurate and it's hard to predict. Market, you never know.
I'd say
I
that's
would
about what
say
he's worth.
it's probably close. I would say he's closer to like 10 just because of the season he had and teams are going to be scared of that and you got the age factor as well.
Right.
Um
Depends on the term.
but I mean, see the comparables here is like Tyler Lockett, Brandon Cooks. I mean that seems
Not
probably
good
right.
contracts.
They weren't good contracts, but I mean, you see here
Tyler
that
Lockett's actually
the
probably
statistical
looking to get his
comparisons.
contract restructured this offseason by Seattle, or
He's probably going to get cut.
casualty.
Or
Yeah.
he's retiring. I mean, you look at
Yeah.
here's the statistical comparisons: the receptions, targets per game, receptions per game. They're all very similar. And obviously you had the drop off with Amari. You see here, all the numbers went down, and that's obviously due to age. And I think the biggest thing for me is are you going to get better if you improve Amari? What you're getting with Amari Cooper. And to me, it's a little stagnant to do that. I want to play devil's advocate here, and I'm actually in the party of not wanting to bring him back. And there's a few reasons why, and I'll get into it right now because I have a couple reasons, and I have my philosophies. But I think it starts with, okay, yes, it was a midseason trade. It's hard to get on the same page, but him and Josh just never seemed like it clicked. Like a lot of times it would be mistiming, and I get that it's a difficult offense to learn and you pick up on the fly, but he is an experienced veteran. He had a great first game actually, and it just never felt like those two really got it together. Maybe an off season together will help that, and I'm sure it would. But you look at his targets, and I'm sure if you look at the splits, they'll tell you they did not throw him the ball on third down, fourth down, 2-minute drill, all these high leverage situations. They're not going to Amari. And to me,
is the question.
Yeah, they probably could have, but it's if you're not trusting him to be those guys in those moments, is he worth bringing back for $14 million a year? I would answer that as no, just to the simple fact it's hey, here's a guy that's playing that X wide receiver role, but he's also not getting the clutch moments, getting the opportunities. So it's you could probably draft somebody for half the cost, or you could sign somebody to a cheaper contract to play that role. And it's okay, let's view the alternatives here. Do we go out and get a younger player again and draft somebody again? Or do we sign a younger player and it gives us a little bit more juice? I honestly think the biggest missing trait in this receiver room was just speed. And Amari doesn't have that.
It's been missing for a long time since John Brown.
It has been, honestly, since like you said, John Brown, Isaiah McKenzie were the speed guys. And since they've left, they have not. They tried to do it with Deontay Hardy a little bit in sort of a gadget form.
He just did not work out.
He was a good returner. I mean, I'll give him that, but it just was never really, it never worked out as far as it goes.
This offense, I mean, other than John Brown and yes, McKenzie, in the Allen era, they've never had a real burner that has been here throughout, And my standpoint is if they're not making the receiving room a priority to make better, then getting a guy that can fulfill that role that Amari holds you just can't make it worse. You know what I mean? We've seen where it was when it was worse, and I don't think this offense can afford to do that.
No.
So as long as you're either staying in the same place or getting better, then that's just where they need to go.
Yeah, I think if you are able to find somebody that can, I mean, it's going to be easy to replace that production for one. For two, I think you got to just have somebody with the skill set of, okay, I got to win on outside. I can win one-on-ones. This is a guy when I got to have it moment, I can trust to catch the ball. This is a guy who can take the top off of the defense, win with his route stems and beat the defense vertically. And, a lot of those things are hard to do because you need the true skill set to be that guy. And somebody I'll mention next episode is, somebody I really liked for a long time is Hollywood Brown. And there's some other guys that, even in the draft that we can talk about, but somebody in that skill set that can separate and win one-on-one, you can trust on third down and sort of allow everybody to play their role and work off of that. And you don't necessarily need this superstar wide receiver. And I think Josh Allen proved that this offense has proved hey, everybody eats. That's what we're going to roll with. It's worked. It's led us to an AFC championship game. Let's just find a way to win without having to dish out a ton of money to this position. But yeah, I don't know if I bring him back. I honestly think you have to. I think you let him hit the market, and if the guys you like aren't available at the price you like, I think it's worth calling him back and then probably double dipping in the draft and doing something like that.
So I know we're going to talk about the draft in a later episode, but
Yeah.
I got to say, and since I watched that college football playoff game, I haven't been able to get this receiver off my mind, is Golden from Texas.
Matthew Golden, awesome
That
player.
dude would
Awesome
be
player.
amazing
I love
on
him.
this team. I would take him over Hollywood Brown personally.
Yeah, so would I. I would too. He's got like that perfect blend of everything. When you watch him, he's physical. He can win with speed. He can win with his size, and that's probably the true like X role you want. Somebody that can kind of do a little bit of everything. That's kind of what we're asking for.
Fit.
And like you can throw him a deep ball, you can throw him an intermediate ball, you could throw him a quick slant. Like he can do pretty much everything. I think a lot of people are actually underrating him in the draft process.
He's going to be good.
He's picked up a lot of steam lately because of that game and because of the hype he's getting. And I'm sure the combine he'll garner even more attention because of how he'll test.
Speed.
I mean, he's probably going to test off the charts, and teams are going to be like, okay, this guy's probably a surefire.
He'll probably get picked in that Brian Thomas range.
I would imagine 20s, mid to late 20s, probably around there, maybe early 20s, depending on how the team likes him. But yeah, I don't think he's going to fall out of the first round. I think he's a very talented player.
So everyone keep an eye on that guy.
Yeah, definitely. Very good player, and somebody who is definitely worth talking about. Another player I wanted to talk about is another receiver, and it is Mack Hollins, who at one point this fan base actually hated, which is crazy to think about after how long the season was. But very good player, Mack Hollins, very underrated player.
For what he does, he's fantastic.
For what he does, yeah, absolutely. He's a true definition of a culture guy, a glue guy, somebody who's got a great personality. And like to me, it doesn't make sense how he would not be back. As you can see here, $2.4 million. That's pretty much nothing. I'm absolutely positive he's going to get more than that. But let's sell ourselves on Mack Hollins here for people that don't know sort of the nuance that Mack brings to this offense, because I think he's just undervalued. Even though a lot of people love him, people don't realize like how good he is, because I think you watch him play and sort of the things he does in the run game is absolutely phenomenal. I think back to that Jets game where he's just blocking a dude like 10 yards down the field. It's like Michael Orr in the blind side.
It felt like he was doing that like all the time.
He's great.
Fantastic on the run.
Absolutely
fantastic
phenomenal.
On the run. He's a very good special teamer. He's a guy that Josh Allen trusts. Like that Houston game, bad game. But if I'm not mistaken, Mack Hollins had a massive game.
He had a huge target share that week. He led the team in targets.
And he shouldn't. He should not.
He shouldn't. And that's
it shows Allen trusts him.
Right.
And
I think, that's the good thing about Mack, having him as your wide receiver 4. He's a guy that can step in if an injury happens and play and function as a wide receiver 3/2 in a pinch. Like he can play that role. And when I looked at the EPA when he was on the field versus when he was off the field in the run game, the EPA per play was 0.09 when he was on the field. And it was negative 0.02 when he was off the field. So like there's a big difference in terms of when he's on the field. He's a huge presence, and he's a guy who's going to clear out everything. He's got the size and the physicality. He can clear out linebackers. I've seen him taking out linebackers. Obviously, he's going to take safeties and corners out of the play.
For what it's worth, he's a solid deep threat as well. Like he's not great, but he's pretty good.
He's pretty solid. He does a lot of nice things for this team, and you'll see him
good in the red zone.
Yeah, that too. You'll see him line up next to Dalton Kincaid or Dawson Knox in the run game and just clear dudes out. And he just brings that physicality that the Bills probably just haven't had in a long time. They really Gabe Davis did a lot of that, but I think he replaced a lot of that run blocking production and then probably doubled it, because he was really, really impressive for me. When I went back and looked at the tape, I came away even more impressed when I watched him. He's actually, he had the most snaps amongst all the receivers. And I think a lot of people would think, oh, yeah, that's probably a bad thing. But for what this team wants to do, and what our identity is, it's running the football and controlling the line of scrimmage, like that doesn't surprise me. And he was also, first in EPA per target amongst all receivers on this team. And you'd probably say, oh, how's it not Shakira? The guys are extremely productive on a per target basis. He gets the most out of every play. And you know what? He does a lot really well that I don't think a lot of people talk about. He's probably I want to say, the best in the league at drawing pass interference calls. He is
Really?
so good at that. I think he had like 5 or 6 this year. It was like every other game. I remember Mack just drawing flags. He does a really good job at that. He did it in the AFC Championship game as well. Just a really smart player and a really good guy for the locker room. Is there anything else you wanted to add about Mack Hollins?
You're not going to be able to replace his aura.
No.
I mean, fan favorite, should be a fan favorite. And I mean, I was ringing the bell for this guy from the jump. And I just think, I can't believe it, but I think he should be like a priority signing
I agree.
this offseason. Just like, it's not going to take a lot, but like, you really need to bring him back, because
You do.
if you don't, there's some other contender out there that's going to be really happy to have him on their team.
I think he's probably my definition of a perfect wide receiver for. He can play special teams. He blocks his ass off. He can function as a number 2 or number 3 receiver. Fits the culture, personality. He has pretty much everything you want in that position. And I would say the only counter to not bringing him back is like, hey, you have drafted Keon Coleman, who should be able to do all the things Mack Hollins does with his size and physicality, and we've seen him do it in the run game. It's just more so like, hey, he's got the ball winning skills. Can you be consistent with that? The question right now, if you had to ask me that, it's no. He's very inconsistent at landing those 50-50 balls, which is
Very
crazy.
inconsistent with about everything.
It's very crazy, and honestly, like I want to say I would attribute a lot of that to his injury and the wrist injury, because it has a lot to do with your hands and blocking
It
and
does.
pulling balls in, and it's just like you want Keon to be able to do that, and you want him to have sort of the same skill set. So in a year, you can go out and allocate other resources to the wide receiver room, kind of spread it out a little bit, and have your wide receiver 4 be sort of a more of a speed guy, do different things. So you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone, So
As
that's
weird as
something to
this
think about.
sounds, I feel like if we kept Amari and let Mack walk instead of vice versa, that would make the team worse, rather than if we kept Mack Hollins and let Amari Cooper walk. Like, I feel like what Mack Hollins does is
Probably more
more
important.
important to
Yeah.
this entirety of the roster than what Amari Cooper brought to the table, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, it does. From the outside, from a fan that's not like devoted, like
Yeah.
watching this team,
We're
or
going to get
they're
a
not even a
comment.
Bills
What
fan.
the fuck is this guy talking
I
about?
know, but like for what he does for the run game, it's absolutely pivotal in
It's
this
greater
offense.
impact,
And
just a bigger impact. The
think about the
special
game
teams,
he
the
had.
run game, his receiving.
Yeah,
He's the package.
think about the game he had in the AFC Championship. Big touchdown catch, showed up in the biggest moment of the
He scored
year.
a lot of big touchdowns this year, like when they really mattered.
Really has sort of that clutch gene almost. Very very good player. I think a lot of people would be pissed if he wasn't back, and I'd be shocked if he isn't
I'd be
back,
one of them.
just because he is a Josh Allen guy, and we know that Josh usually brings his guys back, even if it's Matt Barkley or
Yep.
Mack Hollins. He's going to have the guys he wants on this team, and the team's proven that. And I expect him to be back, and I expect him to, whether it's a 1 or 2 year deal, they need to reward him. He played his ass off this year, and he absolutely should be back for the Bills. And I don't think that's really should be up for debate.
Nope.
And next player I think had a very similar trajectory as far as how fans perceive him and how he's used in sort of as a role player is Ty Johnson, because just like Mack, he plays his role to a T. I mean, we're talking like just sheer like clutch gene, right? And like showing up in big moments. Ty Johnson might be the most clutch player on this team, not named Josh Allen. It's actually crazy when you look at some of the playoff plays he made. He's just showing up. He's making that crazy catch.
Even in the Lions game, he had
The Lions game, he was
huge
awesome.
game.
And I think, especially if you want to commit a lot of money to Cook, whether they do that or not, like I feel like for me, I'm still paying Ty Johnson, whether it's like $3.5 million. It says 2.7 right there. I'm paying him whatever he wants because, well, not whatever he wants, but you know what I mean. He's whatever his value.
Better be less than 5.
It's gonna be less than 5. I don't.
Like he's a great receiving back, great third down back, pretty good,
Awesome
I'd say, pass blocker.
Very good.
I don't think. I think they're going to do what they can to retain him.
Mm-hmm.
Like you brought up with Cook. I just want to say, I feel like people are getting a little too trigger happy with him. Trade him for a second,
I
just
agree.
recoup the second. Let him, just trade him, trade him, trade him, trade him. You
Yeah.
don't have to. There's nothing wrong with James Cook playing one more year and leaving. Like,
If
if
he
you get
wants
one
to
more
do that.
great, right, and if he doesn't, then frankly, that's his problem. I mean, we've looked at
Yeah.
every running back that's sat out, Melvin Gordon, Le'Veon Bell. It has not worked out for them.
No.
And the thing is, if that's the kind of player that he is, then I don't really care. Then
Yeah.
on to the next one.
Right.
Obviously this year was the year of the running back. For the last decade, it's been running backs aren't important. You can pick a guy off the street. The proof a lot of the time was in the pudding. And then this offseason, you have Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, and Saquon Barkley, and now everyone's pounding the table like it's 1984 again. Running back, running back, running back. Well, I'll tell you what. Just about any running back is going to be serviceable with Josh Allen in the red zone. Okay, they
Yeah.
will. They may not have a guy that's going to go out and score 15 plus touchdowns every year, but you know what? You go out and get a guy, then get you like 8 to 10, and then you still got Ray Davis to give you a couple. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this is where I just had to get that off my chest
Yeah, no,
because it's just been
I
bothering me.
understand. A lot of people have been crazy with it and running away with it, and I think the general consensus for me is like everybody's overreacting to that. I expect James Cook to play this year. I don't think he'll hold out. The
You'd
team's
be
not
an
giving him
idiot.
$15 million, and I think his agent is
No,
insane if that's what they're asking because he doesn't play even 50% of the snaps. So
the
what
team's going to
warrants
call his
that kind of
bluff,
money? Yeah, for sure. And I think the
and that's
fans
the
are. I think
move.
everybody is really, and that's. I think
Just get
right
real.
now he probably thinks he has all the leverage, but I think you dive into the data and some of the numbers. It's like, yes, you had a very productive season. Nobody's going to take that away from you, but at the same time, you're not as important as $15 million,
So
and
coming up,
that's
we
my
have
opinion.
Benford. And
Hmm.
we've talked about this a lot before. We have Benford, Bernard,
Yeah,
Khalil Shakir, and James Cook, and I'm probably missing someone else.
James Cook. I mean, I'd imagine they're going to talk to Russo,
Okay,
whether you
Rousseau.
like that or not.
I don't.
Bernard. Did you mention Bernard? I don't know if you
Yes.
did. Um,
So I'd like to think
I would say
Cook's
that's
maybe
it.
fourth.
McGovern probably too. Connor McGovern, and that's probably it.
Okay, I'd like to think Cook's fourth on the list of priority.
Yeah, I
And he's
wouldn't
not
say
going to
he's in the
like
top
that.
three.
Cook is the second best talent on this team at the moment, but he's not the second most important. And
Yeah,
I think that needs to be understood by this fan base that even without James Cook, you're better off letting him walk and being able to keep a guy like Benford or keep a guy like Shakir because you're going to have a hell of a time trying to replace guys like that as opposed to a James Cook.
yeah, 100% agree with you. Couldn't agree
But
with you
back to
anymore.
Ty Johnson. Ty
Yes, Ty
Johnson,
Johnson.
we should re-sign him
Yeah,
if as long as the money makes sense. I mean, if another team goes out and makes him a crazy offer, you know what? You did what you needed to do here, and all the power to you. You kind of revitalized your career to a certain
hmm,
extent, as I'd say like a quality RB2 in this league.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you
for
know,
sure. And
if they can
here's
make it happen, I will not be upset.
yeah, for me, I don't imagine his market's going to be that strong. I'm sure there's teams out there that would love to have Ty Johnson, but from himself, like you got to think from his perspective. Hey, I just had the most productive year of my career, my year or season of my career. Sorry, I
Yes.
don't know why I worded it like that. But I had the most productive year of my career, and my quarterback is fantastic. He makes me better, and I'm probably going to make a lot of money as is with that. And if I keep going back to that well, I'm just going to make more money. And to me, I
Maybe.
think Ty Johnson, for me, it just makes sense to bring him back. And there's a couple of reasons why. I mean, yes, you invested in Ray Davis, and I like Ray Davis. He's proven that when James Cook has gone down, he can handle that workload. But what Ty Johnson does on third down for this team as a pass blocker is more important than a lot of things. You look at what Ray Davis and James Cook do for this
That
team.
was
Like,
crazy.
yeah,
That was
I mean,
crazy.
hey, but Ray Davis and James Cook, they are solid as pass protectors, but Ty Johnson has the size and the willingness to really handle
The
himself, and
grit.
he can handle. He's a good pass blocker, probably a great one
Yes.
as for a running back. And on third down, he would make those clutch plays, and in these big moments, he would make plays for this team. And that's why James Cook wasn't on the field in the final drive of the season, because Ty Johnson comes through for the team in this moment. He's somebody they can really rely on in these moments. And again, he's another Josh Allen guy. He's a guy Josh has a lot of trust and faith in. Obviously, like something that they've really hit off with is that scramble drill, being able to find a running back to do that and know where to find the right space and navigate himself between
That's
defenders.
where he's making his money.
He's really, really good at that. And then also, obviously, you got the skill set of a pass blocker. He's not going to be somebody that you're probably running up the middle with. He's more of a zone runner.
You don't need him to.
But like I said, you have Ray Davis for that role. And I think all three of them play off of each other very well. And it's very rare that you find a running back room that has three guys that can all do different things. And I think his cost won't be too much. As you said, as you can see here, it's 2.7 for Spot Track. Probably a little bit more than that is what I would imagine.
Yeah,
I would give him like 2 years, $6 million. I would give him a $3 million annual. Just get a little pay bump. Say, hey, you've earned it. You can come in here. You can be our third down back still. You can catch the ball for us still. And if James Cook goes down, you're going to be a big.
Or if he's not here, you'll be the second guy. Yeah. Or you'll be in a committee.
Yeah, and I think he's like, I would say he's perfect definition of a utility back. He does everything pretty much great. He's got some juice. He's got size. He blocks his ass off, much like Mack Hollins. He's, again, another perfect role player for this team that they need to retain. And I just don't imagine it'll be too difficult to keep him, much like Mack Hollins. If there is a team out there that's willing to dish out a little bit more dough, that's great. I salute you for your services. But, hey, I imagine he'll be back. And, again, another Josh Allen guy. So I want him back. I know you want him back. And I'm pretty sure about every Bills fan wants him back. So, yeah, Ty Johnson, big fan of his. And
same here.
I hope he's back. So next player I want to talk about is somebody who I am just not interested in bringing back at all, and it's Rasul Douglas. Because when you look at this number, you're going to probably want to throw up. $12 million is what that's a lot for somebody that is 30 years old.
Corners are getting paid quite a bit nowadays,
right? And that's probably why the number is as high as it is. But he's going to be 31 at the start of the season. And it's like, okay, they're projecting him at a 3-year deal, which is a lot for somebody that's 31 years old.
That's where you lost me. The money is not what lost me. 3 fucking years is not happening for me.
But it was just, to me, with Rasul, it was a frustrating thing to watch him play this year. After what we saw in 2023, he had like 6 takeaways. He was playing out of his mind when they acquired him from the trade deadline. And from the Packers. And, they gave up a 3rd-round pick to get him. He played really good. He was actually this team's number 1 corner last year. Yes. And he did a very good job at that. He's a really good zone corner. He was a good schematic fit for this team. Had a really good season. But for whatever reason, this year, it just did not click for him whatsoever. And I don't know if that's, losing. This probably is partially due to losing Poyer and Hari, because they have so much communication pinned on them. And more of it is now being pinned on Rasul. It's, hard to take that leadership role and also maintain that productivity. I get that. But he's never been a great athlete. He's not super fast. It was horrible watching him in man coverage, honestly. Like, he would get
beat.
That's
not what he is. He's not a man corner.
And he's not.
And
but
you knew
this
that
team,
getting him.
But that's the thing, though. If this team, based on the coaching decisions they've made, and they're showing the willingness to go to make that shift more towards man, he's not going to be who you want. And I think, Christian Benford's awesome. Like, he is a true number 1 corner, and he's probably right at the top of my list for extension candidates. But you look at it was not a good year. And I think he gave up a lot of explosive plays. And that's a big no-no in this defense. The mantra of this defense, much like we know the mantra of the Bills offense. It's don't give up the big play. And they want to live a slow death, whether you agree with that approach or not. He gave up. Okay, so
we've died this slow death quite a few times.
We have for a long time. But he allowed a 21.3% explosive play percentage in man coverage. Ooh. Not good at all. He allowed the league average. So 19.4% explosive play percentage. The league average is 14.3. So he's
about
the year 5%. I don't have that number in front of me, but I would imagine it was probably closer to league average and much better. But again, he's a good tackler, and like he does some things well. You see him blow screens up. He's very good at that. He's very skilled at coming up the line of scrimmage and getting physical with guys. But he doesn't have the feel, I think, anymore, because he was a true zone corner. And he lost a lot of that feel this year. Like, you would see that he would just be out of position. The spatial awareness was off. He's getting beat deep downfield. There was just not a lot of good traits to make me think, hey, this is a guy I want to bring back for the way the cornerback market is at $12 million a year. I'd say go out and draft somebody in the second round or the third round. And with how good Christian Benford is, I'd feel comfortable about that room. And,
the problem that stands with me is obviously none of us know their off-season plan.
Mm-hmm.
What's plan A, what's plan B, and what's plan C? And
yeah,
we have seen very much firsthand with that Kyrie Elam, it can get a lot shittier than Rasul Douglas. And I'm not one to exactly want to sign up for that. Like, unless you got a really good feeling about somebody or there's someone in mind, I wouldn't give him 3 years term. But if he wanted to come back on like a 1-year prove it deal, you could talk me into it. And you just got to play to his strengths, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, he's never been a man corner. He never will be a man corner. This defense doesn't really fit a man corner. I mean, that's also very apparent, with Kyrie Elam. And I just think if replacing your cornerback 2 is not in plan A, B, or C, then you might be in trouble.
See, for me, I respect him for what he did for this team, and I think he had some nice moments this year. It was mostly ugly for me, but if I'm looking, okay, say we're replacing cornerback 2, and you're getting basically a career worst year from Rasul, the growth trajectory is probably downward at this point. He's entering his 30s, so that, hey, we're probably not going to be getting better next year. And if you want to upgrade this spot, I just feel like finding somebody with more juice, more athleticism on the outside, whether it is somebody that's more comfortable playing in man or can play both, play both man and zone. I just think there's an upgrade needed. And I honestly think what this secondary is really lacking right now is that speed and athleticism, much like the offense. They're really lacking some athleticism, and they have for quite some time now. And even, a guy like Taron Johnson, who was tasked with playing in man coverage this season, didn't do a great job in that regard. I mean, he was good.
I feel like a lot of them were compensating for those safeties.
Yeah, and honestly, like I had mentioned earlier, I think the loss of Poyer and Hyde is probably an overlooked thing this year because the safety room was fine, not terrible, not great. I mean, it was whatever. But at the same time, it's like, you got to do better at corner. And Christian Benford, we know what he is. We know what Taron Johnson is. But if we can get somebody else out there, I feel very good about this room if we're able to upgrade over Rasul Douglas. So would
you rather leave the safety room in the tier that it's in and severely upgrade a corner, or would you rather re-sign someone like Rasul Douglas and extremely upgrade the safety room?
See,
what do you think makes the team better? Which side?
Honestly, I think they're going to try to do both. I don't think they're leaving this offseason without signing or drafting at least a safety and a corner, both of them. I think you leave this offseason with adding multiple bodies in both those areas.
See,
and I don't think
tough.
It is tough.
We're prioritizing pass rusher. We're prioritizing speed on the outside for the wide receiver room. We're prioritizing a cornerback 2. We're prioritizing interior defensive line, and we're prioritizing safety. Brandon Beane would literally have to go out and have the best draft of his life in order to get half of them better.
We have two second-round picks, right? We already have 3 picks in the top 60. We already have a lot of draft capital. Like, a lot of that can be used to help that out. I mean, that's 3 picks you could very much argue that could all be used on defense. And then you have the financial ability to spend a little bit. I don't expect them to spend a ton, but I expect them to spend a little bit. They add some quality playmakers in here. And then you expect some of these guys like Cole Bishop to take a jump. And I think they're not going to let him have the job. They certainly, with all the comments they've said, he's had a lot of learning to do. And he definitely had some moments in his rookie season.
He wasn't terrible in that last.
Wasn't terrible. No, he wasn't. But I mean, there's a lot of learning for him to do, and they're not going to just give him the job. They're going to bring somebody else in, and I don't think Damar Hamlin's going to be back because I think they know they need to upgrade that spot and not run it back because that's going to be the next player we'll talk about. But
please,
yeah, I mean, to me, it feels like there is an upgrade needed here, and I don't know. I would look at the free agent market, say, hey, can we get younger here? Can we get more? Can we get somebody who has a little bit of a diversifying skill set?
Can we get
upside? Right. And a guy I looked at was like Paulson Adebo. from the Saints, younger player, can play both man and zone, like him a lot. We'll talk about him in the next episode, but yeah, I just think there's a lot of volatility with Rasul at his age, and it just, for me, it makes sense to just go out and either draft or sign somebody, and I think it will be relatively easy just because corners, especially your second corner, it shouldn't be that difficult to find one. It really shouldn't.
Shouldn't
Be
be.
at all. It shouldn't be. But we know with this team, it's sometimes they make problems bigger than they should be. So you never know. But
boy, I'm excited for Damar. Oh
yeah,
man.
we are going to talk about Damar Hamlin
right
because this is something I had a long time analyzing this player because it's such a passionate discussion.
Can I please have the floor on this man?
Yeah. Go ahead. I have a lot to say about Damar as well, but I know you're jumping at the gun here, so just go ahead.
Holy shit, is he bad in the pass game? I mean, over the last 2 years, I have just not. I can't stand watching him in deep ball mode. Like, his decision making in the pass game is not there. It is so amateur. I just and that's probably really harsh, but there's been so many big plays over these last couple of seasons that I just can't take it. I cannot watch this for another year. There has to be another human being out there that this team can acquire that is most definitely a better all-around safety than Damar Hamlin. He is very good in the run game. He's good in the run game. He's sufficient. Good for if that was just his role, would love him. But as your starting free safety,
yes,
as your starting free safety. You have to be in the bottom 3 of the league to start that man. And under no I don't care if he was going to play for free. Do not bring this man back, please.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it feels like if you bring him back, you're punting on upgrading the position in a big way. And here's a few reasons. I do think Damar Hamlin, as much as we give him flack, he provides a solid floor, a certain floor that, hey, say, what you're getting here, right? But for me, the biggest thing with Damar, and it, is because he's so limited as an athlete. Like, what's the ceiling? There really is none. It's like, okay, you're getting a below average starting safety. That's what you're getting out of Damar Hamlin. And that's nothing against Damar. I mean, that's very impressive to do. It's a very hard thing to do to start at safety in the
Damar, NFL. Great human being. We shit on you a lot. Appreciate your foundation. You're a great guy. But this is football.
Yeah, and there's business decisions that need to be made from both ends, from Damar and from the team. And I think from the team's perspective, say, hey, we already invested in your replacement this last draft with Cole Bishop. And Cole Bishop's obviously a better athlete than Damar. And he can do some more things for you. Whether, he doesn't provide that stability that Damar might bring, he at least can learn and improve that. But, the limitations is really what bothered me this year. He doesn't have the range to cover the deep ball. He can't get back to you. He can't center field. He can't be somebody that I trust deep and taking away some of those deeper throws, which is kind of crazy considering this defense is built upon that fact. And you have somebody back there that you're tasking with that ability. And that's what makes me think.
So many instances where it's like, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing?
That's the thing, I think, which will allow him not to come back, because this team is going to be like, hey, we need to get somebody that is going to be able to handle that and not give up those big plays. And this secondary was probably the worst it's ever been under Sean McDermott in terms of giving up those bigger plays. And, I think he's like you said, he's a good run defender. He understands angles. He's saved a couple touchdowns, even in the divisional round against the Ravens. He saved a touchdown by tackling Derrick Henry. And I value some of that, but at the same time I don't want that to be the baseline. I don't want it to be like, hey, you're a good tackling safety. You can make some nice plays in the run game. We'll put you near the box, but you can't really defend anything over the top. It's like, okay, so you're not a very balanced safety whatsoever. And this defense and the pass defense are going to take a big hit from that. It's like, okay, I'd rather have you just say, thank you for what you've done. You got your opportunity to start. I'm sure there's a team out there. I know that there's probably a general mutual interest in going to Pittsburgh because of where he played in college and his ties there. I'm sure there's a role for him somewhere else. I just think this team needs to upgrade. Like I said, with the corner position, need to get a better athlete. And I think they're going to let Cole Bishop battle it out with somebody else. Whether, maybe they go out and spend a little bit of money and get a Javon Holland. I don't know.
I don't care who it is. It just can't be him.
Yeah, and it's nothing against Amari, because I do think he is a human. He's a solid player, but he's just not somebody that's going to upgrade this defense in any facet whatsoever. And
No.
and I think you look back to what a lot Micah Hyde does, and I think that's what this team got tripped up on is because Micah, a lot of his skill sets, he relied on his processing, and he wasn't a great. He was never a super great athlete. He's obviously better athlete than Damar,
He had a
but
great IQ.
He was extremely smart. He knew what was going on before his snap. Really could diagnose things at a high level. And I'm sure Damar, he's had some good moments of good sound processing, but again, it's a downgrade. And I think this team needs to tweak their philosophy and kind of go out and get a guy that can truly play, that ball hawking safety role and make plays for this defense because this
team
really
missed that this year so
they
much.
did.
They
And
missed
honestly, I don't think Taylor Rapp is bad. I honestly am
No.
fine with running it back with him because he does a lot of nice things for this defense. He's physical. He can, get in the box.
Versatile as well. Yeah.
He's versatile. And he can make big plays for you. So I don't mind him. But as far as Damar goes, I do feel like an upgrade is needed in a big way. In a big way. So yeah, and it's nothing against Damar. And they have his market value at 3.1. He'll probably get more again. I'm sure there's somebody
that's mind blowing to me.
I mean, he played as a starting safety in the NFL. Like that is going to get you more than $3.1 million. I mean, he played as a starting safety on a team that went to the AFC Championship game. Whether that's whatever that's worth, somebody is going to pay him for that, and that's it is what it is. Let's talk about some of the lower level free agents that I have on the screen here. You probably can't see the names, but some guys I wanted to talk about. Dwayne Smoot. We'll talk about him. We'll get into some of the other guys, but I wanted to just kind of take the lead on Smoot because he's a guy I would like back for a couple of reasons. He has some versatility, and I think this defensive line desperately needs guys that can fill out multiple roles so they can kind of go out and get that number one guy and allow them to kind of use some of their resource allocation on getting just one really good guy and having some depth pieces behind him. Because I think when I look at this D-line, Greg Rousseau would be probably one of the best defensive ends in this league if he's the number 2 edge rusher. Really damn good elite run defender, does a lot of great things, but this team desperately lacks that number 1 guy. But Dwayne Smoot, back to him, his versatility is very needed on this defense. Some of the clips, cover 1 had talked about it. He's a really good communicator for somebody that just joined the team. He does a lot of communication on third down. Rare you see. Sometimes he has the athleticism. They even drop him a little bit, and they show some of that in his game. And I think they can play him inside. He can rush as a 3-tech. He can rush as an edge. And I think that versatility. And even in the playoffs, I don't know if you remember, but he made some plays for this team in the playoffs.
I was just about to say that he makes plays.
In those big moments, he shows up. Third downs,
moments.
He will pop a little bit. And for somebody that's going to be your 4th, 5th guy on your D line, like behind the starters, I don't mind that. That's pretty solid, and especially somebody with experience like he has, and he's a proven communicator. He's a valued person that some of these younger guys can lean on. I think it makes sense to bring him back. And again, this is not a guy that's going to cost you a ton of money.
He's not going to be a league.
Let's see what the cost is here. They have him at $2.9 million. I'd pay him that.
Wow.
I'd pay him that. Absolutely. That's nothing. I mean,
what's the veteran minimum? 2.5?
I think it's something like that. I mean, that would rank him 514th in the NFL. I mean, that's nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, it compares to guys like these guys, like Cano, Pass, and Yo. Like these are.
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, these are depth players. Yeah. So again, solid player. Like his role and sort of his brain trust and sort of what he's able to do. He can win one-on-ones too with guards, and again, just a really nice versatile chess piece for the Bills to use. And
I'll be looking forward to seeing him in Week 4 against the Las Vegas Raiders, just absolutely tearing up that offensive line in the 4th quarter when we're up 25.
Couple other guys I want to bring up just briefly here: Jordan Phillips, Quentin Jefferson. They don't need to be back. This team.
Jordan Phillips will be back though. He will be. When? I don't know.
He probably will be back in Week 8, dude. And that's fine. He'll be available in September. That's why my main takeaway is he doesn't need to be signed right now.
He's the only dude I've ever seen
draft somebody in the 7th round.
Several occasions celebrate a big play and pull his hammy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. You know what he does a lot too is I would see him getting blown off the ball by 10 yards, and the next play he's just hyping up the crowd like you just didn't get pancaked 15 yards.
But
dude, come on, weird. What are you doing?
But then he'll blow up that same offensive lineman and get a half a sack, and you're like,
I know, right?
Like,
You'll see those random spurts of power. It's like, I think it was an AFC Championship game where he just absolutely annihilated somebody. And I'm like, where is that? Why can't you be more? That can't show up a little bit more, because we saw that in his first year. Yeah, right. That's what we saw, and it's like, okay, where is some of that?
Weird individual, like
weird player.
Yeah,
weird player. I mean, he's a glue guy, and I'm sure if like the team is short on D tackle in the season, they're just gonna probably call him again and say, "Hey, come fill in for us." He is not good against the run at all. He's terrible. But he will, like I said, he will display that power sometimes. It's like, whoa, this guy can win with a pass rush move. And it's like, okay, some of that's there. And it's just like the same thing for Quentin Jefferson. He's not great against the run. He's like a 2 against the run. He's like a 4 against the pass. He has some versatility.
He'll be a roster cut player.
Once again, he's a player that's available in September, and if you need him, you can call him.
Yep.
2 more players I'll briefly touch base on, and it's Reggie Gilliam and Quentin Morris. Reggie Gilliam, happy with him coming back. Let's see, is he a UFA? Let's see, can't see him. Yes, he is UFA. So he's not going to make any much money. Again, he's another versatile player, H-back, fullback, plays a little bit of tight end too.
I genuinely do not care if he comes back. I mean, if he's not here, sucks to suck. If he's here,
well, be fine. Cool. That's the thing.
Yeah,
and that's the same can be said about Quentin Morris. Yeah, there's literally guys on this roster that can replace this role in an instant. Alec Anderson, Reggie Gilliam, Mack Hollins, they all block very well. And again, I'd like to have these guys back, but again, it's not like I'm not going to really care if they're not here. But
sleep.
I imagine them all to be signed to like vet minimum deals and brought back, except for like I don't know if Phillips and Jefferson will be back, and it would make sense to upgrade. They're older, so
Jordan Phillips can make it through a whole season.
Probably not. But yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much covers it from our end. Built in Buffalo again for this opportunity, something that we're very excited about the future of, and I got episodes coming out the off season here, so it should be a fun next few weeks. I mean, free agency is not that far away.
Same with
second week of March, so Combine's in a couple days. So
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm thrilled about this upcoming few weeks here. We got a lot planned for you guys, and so any new listener, any old listener, please check us out on Spotify, anywhere you can find us. All those links will be in the description below. Again, thank you, Built in Buffalo. Thank you, everybody, for giving this opportunity, and thank you, everybody, for listening in, and go Bills.
Go Bills.